Okay, so this is Chapter 3, Homework 6, Solving Quadratic Equations Using Any Method. Remember, quadratic equations always have an x, start with an x squared. That's the highest degree, okay? So we've learned factoring, we've learned square root property, we've used completing the square, and quadratic formula. So now we're going to put it all together. The first thing I'm always going to look for is to see if it'll factor. Now in these notes, it's always going to tell you to find the discriminant because that's going to tell you how many answers you have. Honestly, you can do this problem without that, okay? So the discriminant, remember, is this part that's underneath the radical. It is only the b squared minus 4ac. It's only that number. It's not with the radical. So our b in this case is 9, so we're going to say 9 squared minus 4 times our a, which is 2, times our c, which is negative 5. Okay, so now you finish this out. You can let your calculator do all the work. You can say 81 minus, or actually negative 4 times 2 is a positive 8, negative 8 times a negative 5 is going to give us a positive 40. I was thinking ahead. So underneath that radical, we get 121. So that is a perfect square. That means it's factorable. Okay, it says right here, if the problem is factorable, the discriminant is a perfect square or 0. This is a perfect square. The square root of 121 is 11. 11 times 11. So I know this factors. Okay, now you can use this. It's just a lot of work if you can factor. I always look to factor first. Okay, so I know that this is going to factor. So it says solve by factoring, or tell why it's not possible. It will. So let's go ahead and do that. So I am going to factor it. I know it factors. So I am going to use just trial and error at first. The only way to get 2x squared is by saying 2x and x. The last terms come from here. It's going to be 1 and 5. One's going to be plus, one's going to be minus. I'm just going to put the plus here and I'm going to put the minus here. I'm just going to fill it in, 1 and 5. Now, that is my guess. Now I'm going to check by doing FOIL. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. 1 times x gives me a positive 1x. Well, that gives me negative 9x. I need it to be a positive 9. So what is wrong with it? It's the sign. So I am going to switch the signs. I'm going to put the plus here and I'm going to put the minus here. Don't change the numbers, just change the signs. Positive 10x, negative 1x. That now gives me a positive 9x. So I know that's how it factors, and then negative 1 times 5 gives us that negative 5. So now, if you can factor it, okay, well, actually I'm just going to, that's one way, trial and error. Or guess and check. The other way is AC method or box method. Okay, so the AC method and the box method both start out the same way. So I'm going to rewrite the problem down here. Okay, we'll rewrite that. Now, for either one, for both the box and AC, okay, I'm going to do that there, and I'm going to do the box over here. You rewrite the first term first. You write the first term in the box. You rewrite the last term last. The last term goes in the last box. Now, depending on what you do, you're going to say A times C A is 2, C is our constant, which is -5, which gives us -10. Now, you have to know what to do with this. Multiply to give us -10, add, which these are factors, two numbers that multiply to give -10, that add, sorry, I'm pointing to the wrong thing, to give us 9. Well, that is going to be 10 and -1, because when I add those together, I get 9. Okay, so these are the two numbers I'm going to use. Both of them, it doesn't matter which method you use, I am going to replace this with 10x minus 1x. I'm going to put 10x and -1x. Now, this one you have to group. This one you do not. Okay, so if you're going to do grouping, because there are 4 terms, you're going to group the first two together and you're going to group the second two together. You ask yourself, what can I pull out? My GCF is 2. They both have a 2 in common. They both have an x in common. When I do that, I'm actually dividing this by 2 and I get x. I'm going to divide this by 2x and I get 5. Sorry, 2x squared divided by 2x gives me x, or leaves me with x. Because my first term is negative, I'm going to pull out a negative. Now 1x and -5, they don't really have anything in common, but they actually do. Everything has a 1. So these have a -1 in common, and we are left with a positive x. -5 divided by -1 gives me a positive 5. Now, do you see how they both have an x plus 5? I did it in red because I'm going to factor out the red x plus 5, and I'm left with the green. I don't know if you can see that. 2x minus 1. And now don't forget, this is equal to 0 because we are solving. We are not factoring. We are just solving by factoring. We're not finished with the problem. I'm just showing you the different ways to factor it. If you're going to do the box method, you go by rows. Okay? They both have a 2x in common. They both have a -1 in common. Now I do the columns. They both have an x in common, and here they both have a 5 in common. So 2x minus 1 and x plus 5. See, each way I got that. Now I won't show the factoring anymore. Okay, you're going to have to just pick one. Now, this is not what this problem's about. This problem is about solving by factoring. So because we're setting it equal to 0, and that's how you have to do it, you take each factor and set it equal to 0. Well, they have 2 factors. Okay? Everyone, no matter which way you factored it, if you did it guess and check, you got it. If you did AC method, you got that. If you got box method, you still got the same thing. So now you solve. Subtract 5, this is from chapter 1, and we get x is equal to -5. If I take -5 and plug it into our original problem, which is here, okay, but way up here, when I plug in -5, this is going to give me 0. If it doesn't, then it's not a solution. Right here, I'm going to add 1, and I get 2x is equal to 1. I'm going to divide by 2, and I get x is equal to 1/2, or 0.5. That is perfectly fine. That's more work. I just bring it down, okay? So, if I take this and plug it into this equation, that was the original, you can't see it up on the screen, okay? This left side will give me 0. If it doesn't, if the left doesn't equal the right, it's not right. Okay, now